Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside of Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Hello, audience. I am ecstatic about today's guest. Her name is Tatiana Bowers, and her job, her passion is to help us have team members in our lives that are geared towards being amazing places to work, and they're magnets for raving fans. Welcome, Tatiana.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I just love you, Jenny. You're so wonderful and amazing, and I love your movements and your dancing and your self-expression. It's just always such a delight.
Thank you, Tatiana. We know each other from a high-level speaking program, folks. And I just want to tell you, you are in good hands when you opt in to Tatiana's gift, which I'm going to give you in just a moment. First, Tatiana, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of what you do for businesses.
Well, I am a grandmother of 5, and I have a dog named Twizzy, who is barking at me right now. Hold on a second. And she is wanting to say hi. So here she is.
Oh my gosh!
And she and I live in a motorhome, and we travel the United States visiting family and friends. So this is Twizzy.
Hello.
And my RV's name is Tiffy. And so with Tatiana being my name, we're the triple T's.
I'm so glad I asked this question. Now, listen, audience, we have an RV that I tell my mother in Mandarin, it's the turtle house because everything's in it. Now, I want to find one of my pets. The ones of you listening to the audio version of this podcast, you're going to have to come to the YouTube recording because this dog is adorable. She's white and fluffy.
She's a poodle Bichon.
A poodle Bichon? Oh my gosh, it's adorable. All right, well. So if you're a dog fan, this is the most precious thing I've ever seen. Okay, focus, Jenny, on the interview. Now, where are you located when you're in your RV?
Well, I'm located all over the place. I go from different people, different places. I spent the winter in Jacksonville, Florida, where my mother and my sisters live, and it's warmer because in an RV, it doesn't really take a lot of cold to make it really cold. And I'm now in Nashville, where my daughter and my 2 grandchildren live. And in a couple months, I'll be going up to Nebraska, where my other 3 grandchildren live, and visiting them. Yeah. So that's my plans for the next 6 months or so.
That's fantastic. I love that. So we're going to jump right back to what you're focused on these days with your business, because audience members, you'll read in the introduction description for Tatiana in her bio that she comes from a background of counseling. However, what do you do now?
So I have actually a bachelor's in business, and I was an accounting supervisor and a budget analyst at one time in my life, and had a really, really bad hiring and employment experience that really caused me to have to reflect on how does people dynamics work better in an office situation, in a business. And since then, I've also a military spouse, former military spouse of 23 years. So I've gone into the first time into a business more times than the average person has done. And I have empathic abilities to feel the energy of the business and feel how possibly employees aren't happy, tension is stressful, people aren't really feeling, that, the boss is not happy. It's just, a whole bunch of things that I've really just sort of toned in my skills into learning how that works. Then I later on got a master's in counseling psychology. I still have my business in Washington State. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Washington State only. And so I now have decided to take my business. Oh, my clients, my couples clients asked me to bring my couples counseling into their business. So they started a speech therapy practice. It was 5 of them. We went and did the personality profiles. I helped mentor the speech therapist who wasn't the leader of the couple, but she was going to have to run the business because he was an optometrist and he was going to be opening his own business in a little while. So I worked with them, and they've gone from 5 people, including themselves, to 24 people and 3 locations. And then they're now 4 locations and over 30 people. And I just talked to her, and she told me one of the things that she loves the most about her business is mentoring her employees, which she had no idea that would be one of her things. So I really love that that's something that she now loves and she is excited about and she feels really happy about. And we worked on that and helping understand the different personalities and the different ways of being in business and creating a great team. And when we did the 3 locations, it was really interesting. Each location had its own personality because it was either like one of them had a whole bunch of introverts, so they were more introverted. They didn't like to socialize. There was another office that was more extroverted and they liked to go out and do things after work. And then you had one that was sort of in the middle of the road.
I love this story. I love this story because for me, as a person who will only go back to offices where everyone appears happy to see me.
Right.
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 And for me now as a business owner, I only want employees that do that. And sometimes I would want to have someone like you, Tatiana, come in and help tell them without me telling them, you can't have an attitude when you're greeting customers because it just doesn't help.
Right.
It would
Right.
affect me being able to pay them in the future because if we don't have customers that are happy,
Right.
they don't come back, they don't refer to other people,
Right.
right? And for anybody, now we had a really amazing guest last time. We talked about what ideas to think of even before you go into entrepreneurship. I really love this topic that Tatiana's bringing to our attention about having happy teams, meaning raving fans. I can tell you, folks, this resonates with me because like in our family, we're a happy team and we have raving fans.
Mhm.
Now the goal is how does one extrapolate that outside into a situation like business? How does one even
Right.
start doing that, Tatiana?
So what I did was I ended up using my personality profiles and did personality profiles on all the team. I did a presentation, did the personality profiles, and then I made a grid up and helped them to understand how they work best with each other. And if one was like a leader, which was the husband of the couple, he's a very strong leader. And so he tends to be more direct and more forceful, and he's agenda focused, and he's going to get this done no matter what type of thing. And this was a speech therapy practice, and speech therapists tend to be a little bit more softer and kinder and gentler. And his approach might not always wear well with the employees and make them feel like he's being really mean in some regards when he wasn't being mean. It's just his personality. And then, there's other people that are more social fun, and it may seem a little like they're not getting work done, and you need to redirect them to getting the work done. And then there's thinkers that like to organize, but they like to organize things and people, and not so much, not things they like to organize things like schedules and the cabinets and, all those types of things. But taking charge of people isn't really their thing. And then you have the peacemakers that really want peace and calm, but they're the hard workers. They're the behind the scene people that get the things done. So we go through the personality profiles, and then I work with the owner/managers, whatever, to help them to understand their team better and get the most out of their team, and help them to also understand themselves and learn their particular way of being a leader. Like this speech therapist that I worked with, she learned how to be comfortable in her own skin, and that helped her to be a more comfortable and confident leader.
I love that. I love that because even if you're a company of one, you still need
Right,
to know where you're at, right? So that you can then, when you
right,
expand to anything, and this folks that are listening and watching, this applies even if you have a passion project.
right,
Because you still, right? If you end up with this thing and you're crocheting and then people want to buy it, and then you have to people to help you make more of your crochet item or something, for example, you still got to know where your personality is, and then you can start to read other people, can't you, when they work with you, Tatiana,
right.
without making someone go through
So,
their personality profile.
right. So I have a VA, which is a virtual assistant, right? And we have to be able to talk to them in a way that, they ask us questions. We have to correct them on different, on like social media posts. I don't like this part, but I like this part. It's giving complimentary sandwiches, which means is compliment, insight, and a compliment again, so that you can bring in positivity and encouragement into their world as well.
I love that. I love that. When I work with my clients, we do the positive quotient, the PQ
Hmm.
things, so that people better understanding where their primary defensive perspective is, so that when someone's not feeling secure, they can call themselves on it,
Right,
right? And I
right,
love this because oftentimes you get what you put out, really,
right,
pretty much, right, in the world.
right. I do attachment styles, which is the avoidant, the anxious, the secure, and disorganized. So yeah, I work with that quite a bit and help people to know that when they're stressed, their default is to be anxious, or their default is to be avoidant, and all that kind of stuff as well.
I love that. I love that. Audience members, I want you to really know that in this day and age, we all have we can get into conversations with people who feel really strongly about something. Politics, economy, and all still people underneath
Right,
all that, right? And
right,
right, I mean, there's only so many people you can write off of social media. If you're in a location where you still have to go to that one store, right?
right,
How do you navigate that, right? Or there's one person or you have limited choices and certain things that you really need for necessity. How do you navigate that, right?
right,
There's been, the big B word, boycotting, right? This and
right,
that business. And for example, like Amazon, if you're in a place where you cannot get some life-saving thing and you
right,
need to do Amazon deliveries, right?
right,
And then you have people who don't want to talk to you anymore because you're ordering from Amazon,
right,
blah, blah, for example. This is actually based
right.
on some true life things, right? How does one navigate that? Like, where do you begin and where do you end with your boundaries about, what's important to you?
Right. Well, that's part of the authentic successes policies, is helping people to understand boundaries. And boundaries for each person is different, and it's going to mean different things. And at the same time, we respect the differences and we appreciate that everyone has a perspective. And by doing that, we can collaborate and get past the differences and really make something beautiful happen.
I love that. I love that. Before I tell y'all a story that this brought to mind, I want to make sure that if this is resonating to you, even a tiny bit, if you're feeling a gut like, "Ooh, this is interesting," I want to explore how to apply this stuff to my life. Make sure you go to chatforsuccess.com, chatforsuccess.com, so you can grab your time with Tatiana. Okay. Again, there's no obligations. You're just going to get some
No,
time with this person who has this extremely diversified set of talents to help you look at your life a different way. So remember to go to chatforsuccess.com and grab your time with Tatiana. All right.
it also has a quiz. It has a LeaderMind quiz that helps you to understand your leader mind, and helps you to understand how successfully you handle team situations.
Oh, I love that one. Before I started to really learn boundaries, I was always the one that would avoid conflict.
Hmm.
Either I would just be in the bathroom, or I would conveniently not be there, or I would yes people so I couldn't have to deal with them. And one of the things I've learned in the last 20 years in learning boundaries is just because someone doesn't understand my boundaries doesn't mean that they may not be someone that I could call on for help. Does that make sense? Like when we lived in these neighborhoods at one
Mhm.
point where it was really obvious they were very close, like hard, okay, upstate New York, like blue collar, really, really quiet.
Right,
You were considered an outsider even if you lived there 20 years type of thing.
right, right,
And, right? And if you needed help and they heard about it, they would take the shirt off their backs in a second.
right,
And it didn't really matter where you stood about
Mhm.
anything. If they didn't
Right,
understand your lifestyle, it didn't matter. If you needed them,
right,
they were there for you in a heartbeat.
right.
Right. And so I
That's
want
awesome.
to, right? I want to open that up to people who are listening that we're really at a crossroads where there's so many people who are lonely and feel unsupported.
Oh yeah,
Right.
so
And
many. It's
exactly.
it's it's tragic. I mean, since COVID just crushed crushed connection and crushed the ability to be able to really have meaningful connections with people. So yeah, I believe that connection and relationship is so important. That's why I have the RV life, because I want to have connections with my grandchildren and my children, and have connection with friends and all that type of stuff.
Right. And then still have your own personal space because that's what I love about it
Exactly.
too.
Yeah,
It's like I can come visit you, but I'm still in my space. I close the door and
exactly.
lock it. And also, like, your own comfort.
Yeah,
Your own
it's
comfort,
totally,
right? It's
yeah.
just different. It's just different. I mean, I we really do recognize audience members, Tati and I understand. I call it the panini. I call it the panini because there's such different definitions of whether or not we're in COVID anymore. And I
Right.
say that to put a lighthearted twist on it because like for our
Mhm,
family it's still very prevalent, and so
mhm,
like, my son has type 1 diabetes and asthma. I have asthma. I'm
right,
a cancer survivor. My husband has
right.
no asthma, but he has sleep apnea and he's a cancer survivor. So, and
Right,
our daughter has asthma and food
right.
allergies, and so I don't want to add in some other bug in the
No,
family. So we take a
right,
lot of precautions versus other people. There are people who are like, no, we're good, it's all good, it's over.
right,
So I call it
right.
that panini, audience, so you understand.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
there is still, right, because there was a period of time we were all locked down, disassociating
right,
out of our bodies because we all felt trapped. And I do
right.
feel, audience, right, Tatiana? A
Mm.
lot of us haven't come back.
No, a lot of people they haven't come back at all. I mean, they've started working, they now working from the home nowadays. So going out becomes a obstacle to connecting with people. And it's really sad. I
Yeah.
work with my clients as a therapist as well, and they're just stuck in their little bubbles, and, doing what they used to do before 2020 is like, what? Do I do that? But at the same time, people are going to games and going to monster truck things and all that other kind of stuff. I had a client that they went to the baseball team game, Mariners baseball game, and then went to a monster truck thing as well. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. And audience members, remember, we're not judging either way. If
no,
you're one or the
no,
other or some combination, we're
right,
just saying, hey, listen, even if you're going out, though, I want to iterate this. Even if you're out amongst people, you may not be back in your body. You may still be disassociated. And we want you to be really clear if you're in the present now, right? And you
right,
know where you are, it will increase your positive interactions with people.
true. Yeah. And it will bring people to you. When you're disassociated, when you're shut down, people feel that coldness and feels that for people like me, that's an empath. We feel the coldness, and we don't know if it's towards us. We don't know if it's just them. We don't know anything. We just feel a coldness, and that makes us not want to interact because we're not sure what to do.
Mm. Yes, yes. And I used to be an empath and I realized that does more for safety because I would have to read the room to figure out whether or not I was safe, right?
Right.
And now I always know that if I'm really centered in who I am, it doesn't
Mhm.
really matter if I'm reading cold or warm because I know whether or not I want to deal with it, right? And this
Right.
is something we want you to have, audience. Remember, so do the chatforsuccess.com, fill out the quiz. And if you're even second guessing a little bit, go to my danceandheal.com video that you can get for free.
Yeah.
Do
It's
that a little bit
awesome.
and do the chat for success, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I think
Her dancing just helps free you and really helps eliminate the stress and gives you a new perspective in just a few minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yay! My message is getting out there. All right, now listen, folks. I think Tatiana needs to come back because we're coming up to being overtime for this interview. And, all right, I want to make sure we touch on some other things. Tatiana, like what is a tip
A
you
tip?
would give the audience members before we let you go? A tip on how to start figuring out, besides doing the quiz,
Right.
chatforsuccess.com, okay?
I,
What's a tip for
a
someone?
tip is taking things less personally. Is going to situations and not making it about you, but really being curious, bringing curiosity to any situation you are, not criticism, not mamby-pamby type of thing, but a curiosity of what's going on and how is it going, and maybe they have a different perspective, and maybe I have something to learn and everything else. So that's the type of thing that I'd like to your audience and participants to be. Just add this curiosity to any situation and not personalize things so much,
I love that.
because people aren't really thinking about you most of the time. They're thinking about themselves.
Yeah, if they're not thinking about themselves, they're not thinking about anything really. Right? Oh my gosh. It's so true. It's like when I'm in dance classes and people are like, "Oh, I don't want to be in the front." And I'm like, "Don't worry, nobody's watching you in the front. They're
Right.
watching the teacher or the one other student who knows, who doesn't care about being in the front, who is actually
Right.
fighting to be in the front. The rest of us who are asked to have a turn in the front just so we can at least see ourselves in the mirror, right?" No
Right.
one's worried about who's up there. They're just watching the teacher. I love
Yeah.
that. All right, so audience members, on Tatiana's wonderful advice, stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Love being here. Thank you, Jenny.
Mwah.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit OutsideInRecovery.com. Are you ready to move?